Tottenham were finished 17th in the Premier League. Their manager sacked, but now something's changing. A new coach, new signings, and suddenly Spurs don't look like a joke anymore. So, are Tottenham really back? Tottenham are not supposed to look like this. Under Thomas Frank, something has changed. This is not the chaotic, self-destructing Spurs of last year. This is a team that looks organized, a team that looks stable. Just look at their first test of the season. PSG, the defending European champions. Everyone expected Tottenham to be blown away, but they didn't collapse, they didn't fold. They fought, went toe-to-toe, and forced penalties after a 2-2 draw. Even PSG's coach, Luis Enrique, admitted they probably didn't deserve to win.
Do you think we deserve that?
Do you?
For 80 minutes, I didn't deserve that. I think Tottenham deserved the winning the match.
That's not luck. That's a team with a new identity. Then came the league opener against Burnley. Yes, a newly promoted side, but Spurs looked sharp, confident, and in control. It wasn't the result that mattered most. It was the way they played. But their second Premier League game, that was the real test. Not preseason, not a promoted side. This was Manchester City, a team that has won 4 of the last 5 league titles. And Spurs didn't just win, they kept a clean sheet against Pep Guardiola's machine. That's not a fluke, that's a statement. For the first time in a long time, Tottenham don't look like a club in chaos. They look like a team with direction. So what exactly has Thomas Frank done to make Spurs feel reborn? When Daniel Levy brought in Thomas Frank, it wasn't a gamble. It was a move backed by evidence. Look at what Frank achieved at Brentford. Despite one of the smallest budgets in the Premier League, he kept them competitive season after season. 10th, 16th, 9th, and 13th. Never falling away, always fighting until the very end. For a club like Brentford, that kind of consistency is unheard of. And it wasn't just survival. Brentford built a reputation as the giant killers. They embarrassed Manchester United. They won at Chelsea. They stunned Manchester City. Frank had molded Brentford into a side no one enjoyed facing. What makes him so special is his adaptability. Every season, Brentford lost stars. Maupay, Watkins, Tony, Raya, Konsa. And every season, he rebuilt, not just with transfers, but by developing the talent already at his disposal. Frank doesn't talk about projects, he creates them. Take Ollie Watkins. He arrived at Brentford as a winger. Under Frank, he was transformed into a number 9, and that single decision changed his career forever. Today, Watkins is one of the Premier League's most reliable strikers. Brian Mbeumo is another. Under Frank, he grew from a raw talent into one of the league's best forwards, bagging 20 goals and 8 assists in 2025. Even players like Damsgaard, overlooked by many, became key creators in Frank's system. Different forwards, different profiles, yet all of them thrived. That's Frank's real gift. He doesn't force players into a rigid system. He shapes his system to the players. That's exactly what Spurs had been missing. Ange Postecoglou's biggest criticism was his stubbornness. One style, one shape, no plan B. Thomas Frank is the opposite. He's flexible, pragmatic, and knows how to get results. And the early signs at Tottenham, they already look calmer, harder to break down, and smarter in their decision-making. That's the Frank effect. But tactics tell the story even better. So how exactly is he setting Spurs up on the pitch? One of the biggest misconceptions about Thomas Frank is that he only knows how to play one way. The truth, he's one of the most adaptable managers in the league. At Brentford, his first 2 full seasons in the championship were built on possession. They were one of the top 5 teams for keeping the ball, scored more goals than anyone else, and played front-foot attacking football. Frank himself admitted it.
Especially over time, especially here in the championship where we were the dominant side. I think that 2 years in a row we scored the most goals in the championship and were one of the most dominated, most attacked.
But when he took Brentford into the Premier League, he completely changed his approach. Suddenly, they became pragmatic. Against the likes of Manchester City, Arsenal, and Liverpool, he wasn't afraid to switch to a back 5 and soak up pressure. Against mid-table sides, he'd go back to a 4-3-3 and play more expansive. He didn't care about philosophy points. He cared about results. That's what makes him dangerous at Spurs. Under Ange, Tottenham had only one gear. They passed short, they pressed high, and they lived or died by that identity. In fact, only Manchester City played fewer long passes than Spurs last season. It was predictable, and once opponents figured it out, Spurs collapsed. Frank brings balance. He isn't afraid of mixing it up. If he sees space in behind, Spurs will go long. If control is needed, they'll keep the ball. Already, you can see glimpses of his Brentford DNA in Tottenham. Quick switches into the channels, runners attacking space, and wingbacks pushing high before dropping into a 5 when defending. And now, with better players at his disposal, the ceiling is even higher. Frank can blend the possession dominance of his championship Brentford with the pragmatic, giant-killing style that frustrated the Premier League's best. That flexibility could make Spurs one of the most unpredictable sides in the league this season. But tactics only work if you have the right tools. And Spurs' summer signings may be the perfect weapons for Frank's flexible approach. Tottenham's summer transfer window didn't go exactly as planned. They aimed high. Morgan Gibbs-White and Eberechi were top targets, but missed out when Gibbs-White renewed with Nottingham Forest and Arsenal swooped in for Iz at the last minute. Still, Spurs landed some key reinforcements. Mohamed Kudus from West Ham, Kevin Danso from Lens, and João Palhinha on loan from Bayern. It may not be the perfect squad yet, but Thomas Frank is no stranger to adapting when plans fall through. A left winger and a left-sided center back remain priorities, but even without them, the team looks dangerous. Kudus wasted no time showing why Spurs moved quickly for him. Linking up with Richarlison, he assisted 2 spectacular goals in the opening game, and the chemistry already feels almost telepathic. Frank has a reputation for molding strikers. Neil Maupay, Ollie Watkins, Ivan Toney, Yoane Wissa, each one thriving under his guidance. By choosing Richarlison over Solanke, Frank seems convinced this is the season the Brazilian finally delivers consistently, rather than in flashes. If Richarlison becomes the latest in Frank's line of lethal forwards, Spurs' attack could be unstoppable. And it's not just the new arrivals. Dejan Kulusevski remains a technical and intelligent wide option, using clever movement and passing vision to unlock defenses. Brennan Johnson adds blistering pace and a direct edge in transitions. In midfield, Pape Sarr brings energy and defensive bite as a modern box-to-box player, while Rodrigo Bentancur provides composure and technical control. Palhinha, meanwhile, brings Premier League-tested steel to the middle. Defensively, Spurs boast quality across the backline. Christian Romero is one of the league's most aggressive and technically skilled center-backs, paired with the rapid, composed Mickey van de Ven. Pedro Porro thrives as an adventurous, possession-based fullback, while Dade Spence offers raw width and directness. Add in Danso's physicality and aerial strength, and Spurs' defensive core looks strong. Behind them all, Guglielmo Vicario is a proactive goalkeeper, comfortable with the ball at his feet and reliable when called upon to make big saves. On paper, Spurs have assembled a squad with balance, firepower, and plenty of depth. Which leads us to the biggest question: what could stop Spurs from finally being back among the elite? Tottenham may look transformed under Thomas Frank, but when you compare their squad to the true elites, the gap is still obvious. Yes, Spurs have a new coach and added Mohamed Kudus, but that's essentially it for the starting 11. Everyone else around them, they've reloaded. Take Manchester United, a team that finished just 15th last season. They knew their attack was the problem, so they fixed it. Mateus Cunha, Benjamin Šeško, and Brian Mbeumo is another. Now give them multiple options and a completely new look going forward. Chelsea, who finished 4th, also went big. Their long-standing striker curse solved. João Pedro, Liam Delap, Jamie Gittins, and wonder kid Willian Esteban, all brought in to make sure goals are no longer a question. Even Manchester City, after an underwhelming year, hit the reset button. Tijani Reinders, Ryan Ait-Nouri, Ryan Cherki, James Trafford, a fresh rebuild for Guardiola's next chapter. Arsenal, they finally have a striker in Victor Gyökeres, added Zubimendi in midfield, and even hijacked Eze, one of Tottenham's biggest targets. And then Liverpool, the champions. In came Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike, Milos Kerkez, and Jeremy Frimpong. Thomas Frank has changed Spurs' identity, but football isn't just about structure, it's also about firepower. And right now, that's where Tottenham may still fall short.